All right, friends, I just wanted to take a moment to talk about AI logo creation. We've all been there. We've all had the moment where we're like, I need a logo or I want a new logo. So you sit in front of your computer, maybe you go to ChatGPT or some other AI logo creation software or web page, and you type in your logo and you get the logo. There's nothing wrong with it. And you think, yes, I got it. I'm ready to go. But wait, stop. There's probably some problems with that logo that you don't know you're getting yourself into. Let me give you some pointers, some recommendations that can help you think this through and maybe get a little professional, someone local. .com can help. Find out what your options are. Let's walk through it. First, there are some AI strengths that really work. One, it's fast. You can have a logo in minutes, in seconds, and you can be up and running. At least so it seems like. But keep in mind, fast isn't always great. It also isn't expensive. Hey, maybe you're just paying for a free or a pro account, and you're all set to go, and you've got the perfect logo in your mind. Uh, I would say that AI is great for visualizing ideas. Hey, I have an idea for a logo. What it would look like? What would it look like if I had this, this, and this? And have AI generate several variations. Leave it at that. Let it be your idea generation, kind of like a brainstorming tool, whiteboard, if you will. And outside of that, there are some cons though. Some weaknesses it has. Scalability is one of the biggest problems. You're going to most likely get a 72 dpi low resolution image. It looks good maybe for a thumbnail or for a profile image. Well, you want to stick it on the side of a building or on a billboard or in a vehicle, you're going to have some issues. And I'm going to show this to you. Unrefined typography, meaning you can't tell any of your vendors what font that is. It just AI generated it. And we can get into branding, we can get into fonts and colors and all that. I really want to focus on the problem with AI logos. It adds awkward spacings or unrealistic results. Like you want a fence, well, you wanted a two-rail picket fence, and they gave you something else. So it's not going to be perfect, and you're going to have to keep an eye on it. And every time you try to refine it, it just doesn't work. I mentioned the low resolution. That's definitely a problem. So keep an eye on that. AI is pulling from the internet. So that means it's not truly original. Most likely it's not 100% original. It's pulling graphics from this, pulling graphics from that, and it's pushing it all together into one seemingly new idea. But just keep an eye on others might have that design, and I'm going to show you an example of that. So keep in mind that AI is like a whiteboard. It gives you starting points, but it doesn't know your brand. It doesn't know your customers. It doesn't know where you're located. Even if you give it all these prompts, it still doesn't know you. It doesn't know what you're trying to accomplish. It doesn't know what the technical needs of that logo are. It doesn't know that you need to put it on a business card or a pen or a billboard or a t-shirt. It has no idea. So it's very limiting. Again, use it as an idea generation. Maybe something that you can give to your graphic designer. Here's some thoughts I had. What do you think? Can you make it better? So what I did was I took a basic idea of, let me just pretend that there's this fence company called Mountain Fence. Pick your location. I picked Colorado. I said let's go with residential fence, and I also said I want the colors to look like the Colorado Rockies. So if you're from Colorado, you know that team, baseball team. So we've got kind of a silver, black, and purple color. That's the basis. So again, this doesn't exist. Maybe there is a mountain fence out there. I don't know who they are. I just use this as my prompt so that I can go ahead and follow through on this exercise. So here's two logos it gave me. Uh, Not getting into logo design or logo critiquing. These logos are functional to a certain degree. They've got the colors, they've got the Rockies in there. One of them I asked it to do more of a horizontal logo, which was the one on the left, and the other one I asked it to do one in a circle. I have a lot of problems that I can get into with if you'd like to debate about circle logos. I am an advocate of not putting your type inside your graphic. In both cases here, the type is in the graphic. That means if I want to scale down the graphic, the type goes with it. So I usually recommend keeping the font or the text or the type outside or away from the graphic. Sometimes you can get away with not even having the graphic. Sometimes you can get away with not having the type, but putting them in the same thing means you're going to have a lot of versatility issues. Like if you want to put it on the side of a pen or other situations, you're always scaling your type down, and that's not always a good result. So again, we're not getting into logo design, but these are the ones that ChatGPT gave me, and I think again we can make them work, but you're going to see some problems with them. What I did then, also continuing my point from earlier, is I took that logo and I drug it into Google's image search just to see if there were other logos like it. This is a great other way to do some research, is find out what else is out there. In fact, I think one of our Fencer clients is on this page, but so you can see, am I doing an original idea? And this is just 2 quick screen grabs of the first results that Google gave us. And notice it just gives us an idea of, oh, look, everybody else they're all kind of different. Or, wow, I saw something that I really like how they handled that. So do your research, put the time in, find out what you like and don't like. Does the logo capture your brand? And we can really go deep. We can spend a lecture or a presentation on just your brand. Next thing is, well, what happens? You get this logo from ChatGPT or your AI logo generator, and you've got a white background. Now you get rid of it. This is actually Google Slides attempt to remove the background. It didn't do a great job. It left a lot of white in there, so that's not going to really work. I actually took it into Photoshop and removed the white background. From this view right now, it looks okay. But if you zoom in on it, now you can see the logo quality is a problem. You can see some of these fragments of white still on it. This is not going to cut it for sticking on the side of a truck or a billboard or blowing it up. You can see it's low res. Also notice if you look close enough, you almost see somewhat of a texture on there. AI does that a lot. And you can't just wipe that out. So we're already getting into some of the issues with AI generated logos. Here's another view. Notice all the jagged edges, the pixelization, the white glow around it. You will always be fighting this problem if you use an AI generated logo. Here it is with the logo. So now you're going to start putting your logo on different backgrounds. This is a gray background. You can see some of that white showing up. What happens if you want to put your logo on black? You already do not have a logo that's what I would call reversed, where it's a white type on a dark background. So how are you going to do that? You can't go back to ChatGPT and ask it to do it. So your logo is no longer versatile. What if you want to put it on purple? Now you've lost your graphic. So you need a logo that you can swap colors out. You can change the backgrounds. In this one, I put it into Photoshop, and I wanted to put some people will just put a white stroke around it to solve it. Well, this is a mess. You can see all the little pixelizations and the dots and everything. You're just going down a path of misery, really. So overall, let's do it right. Don't get me wrong, you don't have to start with the pencil sketch, but I did. So here's my sketch real quick. Notice that the text is outside of the graphic. I wanted the mountains, I wanted the picket fence, but I wanted that circle element. You could do a square, you can do a diamond. You do not have to do a circle. The other thing I had fun with is one of the highlights on the mountains, I used the letter M, one of those little breadcrumb or surprises in the logo. So this is the logo created. I used Adobe Illustrator. Any professional graphic designer will have access to do that for you if you hire someone. I'd suggest you get .com or someone local to help you. That way they can always make all these edits and adjustments. I also chose a font that I really like. We call them the serifs, the little points on there. I could have probably spent hours picking out the perfect one, but this one sufficed just great for this demonstration. I went with the color scheme as well. Notice that I still got that little M on the mountain for a little, we call that a concept or the idea. And these are things that ChatGPT and others are not going to give you unless you do it right. But notice here I have a full color version. I have a purple color version. I have a black version. I have a white version. And because I've made this logo, I can change whatever variations I want. I also could put a white shape behind the circle, and we could do so much. But now I have scalable, editable files. I can move that little circle out for a profile icon on social media. I can break mountain fence apart and they're not interrupted by always having to be together like the two I showed you. So here's an example of putting the AI generated logo on a cup. Notice that I put a little white on it, but one of the problems, and I see this on vehicles all the time, sign shops do it a lot, is they put white around it so that they can maintain the color. But then you have this busy kind of vibrating on your eyes effect, and it's not a good look. So this logo, like I said, is not prepared for all the things that you need your logo to do for your business. Here's an example of the one I did. My logo, I turned it sideways just to be different, but I was able to use white. I didn't have any conflicts. It pops really well. And the one on the right might be a little fuzzy on your screen, but that's just the mock-up artwork there. But I have the ability of choosing a different color and not stuck with that black on purple. Here's a one I did with the two logos. Now, in this situation, you might be all right because you are, this is kind of like a moving billboard. You are looking at something from a distance, but even the guy on the right, if he gets close enough to this mountain fence on the right, he's probably going to see a lot of this. And that's because the logo is starting out at low resolution. You blew it up to 20 feet, 15 feet tall. And now you've got all these pixelization happening. And there's that texture we talked about as well. From a distance, sure, it may be fine. On a billboard, may be fine, but it's, up close, it's just going to be poor quality and always cause frustration and not give you a lot of flexibility. Here's a storefront mock-up I did, and I mentioned, I'm going to say the word vinyl. A lot of times people will cut your logo out on vinyl and stick it on your truck or on your window, and that's kind of what I'm simulating here, the door front middle where the white, that would be cut out in vinyl. It's like a sticker, and you can't cut out vinyl with your logo. The vendor or the contractor you're working with, the sign shop, is going to have to do some work on your logo. Maybe trace it. It's not going to be its purest form. But notice on this design, I also still have the full color version. I've got, you can see the circle graphic. I split in half on either side. I know what font I used. So every time I specify with a sign company or with my designer, hey, we're going to stick with this design with this font. You're not going to get that from ChatGPT or any other AI generated. So kind of a cool effect that you can play around and do. You have more options. So when you're considering, is your logo ready? One, is it scalable? JPEGs, PNGs are not, we would not consider those scalable. You would need something, the difference between vector and raster. If you ever hear those terms, vector is scalable. It's made with points and lines. That can be cut out in vinyl. That's scalable. And raster is basically pixels. And that means you are limited on how big you can get that image. So you really need both. So if you have a PNG, you're great. Might work great on your website, but when you need to start scaling it up and cutting it out in vinyl or laser burning it on a keychain, for example, you really want a vector. Can you get PDF, PNG, JPEG, SVG, and EPS files from your logo? Most likely not even an option if you're going the AI generated route. So if you're working with the vendor or even .com or a local designer, you want to have all these file types available to you. Most likely in your day-to-day, you'll work with PNG, but if you're working with the sign shop, they would love it if you had some options. Color variations. Do you have white, black, two color, full color? Can you get your logo in different formats like that? And then the next one is options for different backgrounds. Keep in mind that you might be working with a gradient background. What about a window where the background changes? You might need to have an outline format, but having the original logo will help you greatly. And then how does it look small? Scale your logo down to maybe 1 inch by 1 inch. Is it going to make a good profile image? And sometimes you're not going to get that ability with an AI generated logo, especially if your type is in the logo itself. Don't forget, AI is a great tool, but it's not going to be the best tool for creating a logo for your brand, for versatility and all the other demands that your brand needs that logo to do. I hope that's helpful today. I'm Aaron here at .com Global Media. If we can be of any assistance, let us know. But don't hesitate to work with a local designer near you that knows what they're doing, can get that logo looking great and working great for you. Till next time, we'll see you later.